Thank you. Department of Finance.
Thank you. Keith Nizam from the Department of Finance. The LAO has done a good job of summarizing our proposal. We work closely with stakeholders to take their feedback and to inform our May revision proposal. And much of the revisions that we've proposed reflect the feedback while retaining the original intent of our proposal to improve, foster collaboration amongst the various regional providers of adult education and to create a more unified and effective adult education program. Rather than repeat what was summarized, I can open it up to any questions you may have, but the Legislative Analyst's Office did a good job of summarizing it.
Okay. Thank you. Department of Education and Community Colleges. Department of Ed, go first.
Monique Ramos on behalf of the Department of Education. So the department is happy to see many of the changes in the May revise, particularly the elimination of the allocation boards. We also appreciate the 3 positions for the Department of Education, given that we have no general fund resources in our adult education office. We do have a few concerns. The first is the timeline for state allocations within the first year. We are working with the Community College Office, Finance and LAO to try to come up with something that will work for all parties. And then lastly, we continue to have concerns about the State Board of Education's role in this proposal.
What's that second piece? Concerns about what?
The State Board of Education's executive director's role in the proposal.
Okay, you want to spell that out specifically?
So specifically, it requires basically concurrence of the executive director of the State Board of Education in making statewide decisions. And our questions and concerns are: this has never been a role for the State Board of Education, and it's never been a role of the executive director. So we're not sure as to why the engagement is necessary when the chancellor's office and the superintendent's office have administered these programs over the years.
So your recommendation is just to eliminate that piece?
Correct. We're happy to provide updates at the board's meetings as we do for many items and keep the board informed if they have questions, but we don't see the value of adding an additional concurrence.
Okay, thank you. Community colleges?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'm Dan Troy. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Fiscal Policy at the California Community College Chancellor's Office. We are indeed very appreciative of many of the revisions proposed by the Governor this May, particularly the elimination of the allocation boards that were specified in January. We appreciate the requirement for consortia to develop public, transparent governance structures that would be approved by our office along with the superintendent. We think that's a good reform that also respects the will of local flexibility. We are also think it's a good idea to incorporate the federal dollars into the local planning, and we're also appreciative of the department in that regard to give us a year or so to plan that time rather than trying to run it out now too quickly. We do concur with some of the LAO's critiques of the proposal. We think by locking in the individual provider funds, not only for year one but for subsequent years, you may be in effect kind of undoing a lot of the good work and collaboration that was done over the planning over the past 2 years. There may not be many funds left over after that to actually go toward the new collaborative work that and programs that were worked on by those entities. So we could see the need for some sort of short-term transition, but we are not sure that making it relatively permanent is the way to go. We do agree with the LAO that there should be some more guidance on providing statewide goals and metrics. We'd be happy to work with the committee and with stakeholders to work on that. And also we concur with the Department of Education's issues concerning timelines regarding the apportionment. It would probably be virtually impossible for us to get funds out by August 30 for a new program this year. We'll work collaboratively with the Department of Education on coming up with reasonable timeframes for you. Further, there is a proposal in the bill that would have us annually project schedules out 2 years in the future for what districts will receive in terms of local allocations. I'd note that I don't believe our agencies are well positioned to determine what the budgets will be in the future to do that.
Okay. As far as the date certain, August, and you want to push it out, but is there a suggestion to push it out still within the next budget year, or plus 1 year?
Well, In subsequent years. I think presumably the first year you'd need a longer time frame than in year 2, 3, 4, et cetera. And we'll work on an estimate for you for that.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chavez? Okay. With that, we'll proceed with public comment for adult education. Hi. We're going to do 2 minutes per individual, please.
You got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Dawn Kepke with McHugh Kepke and Associates on behalf of the California Council for Adult Education and California Adult Education Administrators Association. Both just wanting to convey deep appreciation to the Department of Finance and the administration for working very closely with us on all of the concerns raised previously, specifically and probably most importantly in the near term, helping to provide stability to K-12 adult schools as their districts move forward with finalizing their budgets, providing that stability in short order for 15-16 and out years to ensure that adult schools continue to be in existence and providing services. And we also appreciate the adjustment and elimination of the allocation board and a number of other provisions. We believe this is a very strong proposal moving forward and certainly something that we think ensures continued collaboration and coordination at the local level, which was the intent of this process all along. So with that, we're very pleased with the proposal and appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we'll clarify, hopefully 2 minutes or less.
Craig Brown, Correctional Education Division of the Hacienda La Puente Unified School District. The administration in the May revision pulled correctional ed out, restored it to where it has been traditionally for many, many years, and we appreciate that effort and fully support that proposal.
Bob Lattner for Elk Grove Unified. We agree with Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Ashley Situde with Nossaman on behalf of North Orange County Community College District. Really appreciate the Governor's Office and Department of Finance for the changes. We think there's been several improvements. We are looking forward to certifying the MOE quickly so that we can start on the implementation grants and getting those funds out. And we'd like to echo some of the concerns that the Chancellor's Office has relayed. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Lizette Navarrete on behalf of the Community College League, representing the CEOs and trustees of the California Community Colleges. Again, want to reiterate the strong proposal that has been presented by the administration and thank them for all of their efforts. We agree with the committee analysis as well as the LAO's representation on kind of the final concern about locking in the MOE as an ongoing base without consideration of demographic changes or need within consortia. Additionally, we believe that a data interface that really looks at service levels of students may help that in out years after year one. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sarah Botches with the Association of California School Administrators, echoing all the comments of Ms. Kepke. We're very grateful and appreciative of the administration's time and support in amending their January proposal. Thank you.
Enrique Roacho on behalf of the California Association of School Business Officials, also echoing a lot of the comments that have already been stated and in support of the governor's revised budget on adult education. Thank you.
I'm Rona Sheriff. I'm with the California EDGE Coalition, a coalition of business, labor, and social justice organizations. We've long been a supporter of restructuring and really adequately funding adult education. We appreciate all the hard work in recent years to do that. We agree with LAO and with what the Chancellor's Office comments regarding the flexibility of funding, all this work that's been done to assess the needs in the region, and that we believe the consortia should have the ability to design programs to reflect the needs of the region. And we also agree strongly that we need to have some outcome measures clarified that can measure our progress to students' career and life goals. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Leilani Aguinaldo-Yee on behalf of the Los Angeles Unified School District. We believe that the governor's May revision proposal is a significant improvement from the January proposal, and specifically we support the elimination of the allocation board as well as the stability for LEAs that have been instituted in the May revision, specifically by details such as establishing a base level of funding for LEAs from year to year, as well as by providing clarity in the timing for when LEAs can expect to receive their money and how much money they can expect every year. Thank you.
Terry Burns, California School Boards Association, and I'll echo our support for the way the administration has worked with stakeholders on this. It's been a terrific input. I would associate myself with the other remarks about the good policy here. The one concern I heard about opposing the 2-year estimates. School districts are asked to make 3-year estimates of what we're going to get. Having some sense of stability and some planning ability will be hugely helpful in making this program a success.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Tristan Brown with the California School Employees Association here in support, also in thanks by the administration for the work that's been done here for the May revise, especially the removal of the allocation panels and the inclusion of stakeholder input in the local planning process. Thank you.
Patrick McCallum with the Los Rios, San Diego, LA Community College District and other districts. 3 or 4 points. The first is we've heard in the last couple of weeks from a couple of our large districts that the consortiums are too large. We like the flexibility to be able to create 1 or 2 consortiums within a consortium. We'll meet with you tomorrow and have a discussion on that. The LAO had suggested, and I know there's been other conversations, that there ought to be a specific number on the MOE. We've heard in the $300 million range. We think that's a good way to approach it so that the other side of the coin, whether it's 150 or 200 million, we can start preparing on that within the consortiums. The 3 positions that the governor has proposed for the Department of Ed, community colleges could be a big player on that. We think one of those positions ought to go to the Chancellor's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Megan Brightwell here on behalf of the California Federation of Teachers. We very much support the adult ed proposal and appreciate the significant changes that were made in the May revise. We'd obviously also support long-term funding for these programs to ensure the stability, and would also just say that we are looking forward to letting the consortiums do the work and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, we'll hold this issue open. Just to note, we certainly appreciate the direction from the Department of Finance. We addressed this both in the subcommittee and the policy committee regarding some structural issues as far as the makeup and how it was being implemented. So certainly we like the direction. There may be a few more things that we'll be looking to tweak when we adopt the final plan in a couple days. Okay, we will now proceed with the California Community Colleges. Yes. Okay. Department of Finance.
Sources for the community colleges since the governor's budget and over $1 billion since the 2014-15 Budget Act, and primarily invested in student success and student access with flexibility for districts to locally determine how best to meet these goals. Your agenda goes over several of the different proposals in separate issues. I'd be happy to start on any of the issues that you are ready to hear.
So Chris Ferguson with Finance. I'll cover a few of the specific May revision proposals that we have before you. One of the May revisions proposals is an additional $15 million in support of student equity plans. Another is with the goal of reducing the student achievement gap. These tend to be flexible funds that districts can use for, community college districts can use for any purpose outlined in their student equity plans. Further, we have another proposal that would implement the terms of SB 1023. Our expectation is that the Chancellor's Office would enter into agreements with up to 10 community college districts to implement that bill. SB 1023 is specific to foster youth and expanding foster youth services. In addition to that, the May revision proposes $12 million for support of the institutional effectiveness initiative, and the goal of this initiative is to expand the development and dissemination of effective practices amongst all community colleges. In particular, in this area, the administration is prioritizing the development of curricula and effective practices for Conservation Corps members and for the incarcerated. Within that, there's also an additional $3 million proposed for local technical assistance for community college districts. Another one of the highlights is for 4 categorical programs: the extended opportunity programs and services, the disabled students programs and services, the CalWorks program, as well as the child care tax bailout, are provided a COLA in the May revision. In terms of state operations, the governor's May revision does propose an additional 6 positions and $340,000 to support the ongoing transformation that's occurring within the Chancellor's Office to further support community college districts as they emphasize their efforts to ensure student success. And then lastly, one other highlight would be that the governor's May revision contains language that would request the Chancellor's Office facilitate the development of a $5 million local match for the purpose of ensuring adult inmate education.
Thank you. LAO.
Good afternoon. Judy Hyman, LAO. Sergeant distributed a handout. And the first couple of pages of the handout give you an overview of Community College Proposition 98 funding. Page 1 shows, as Finance mentioned, an increase of over $600 million from the May revision over the 2-year period. Page 2 summarizes the spending changes that the department just highlighted. And then page 3 begins to describe those proposals. Finance went through them, so I'll jump right to some of our recommendations. And taking them in the order of the agenda, starting with the student equity plan augmentation. As Finance mentioned, this is a $15 million proposal to augment student equity plans, requiring that the allocation model for the plans include foster youth in the special populations that will determine funding, and also asking the Chancellor to set up pilot projects to provide supplemental services to foster youth. The January budget increased funding for student equity plans from $70 million this year to $170 million in the budget year. This would add another $15 million on top of that. As we mentioned in earlier testimony, colleges are already having trouble absorbing the large increases in student support funding, both for student equity plans and student success and support program over the last couple of years. And we think that providing additional funding at this point is premature. You could still adopt the proposed budget language requiring the Chancellor to include foster youth in the calculation of the allocation and directing the Chancellor to enter into agreements with 10 districts for pilot programs, but we recommend that you reject the $15 million allocation augmentation. Regarding the proposal to disseminate effective institutional practices and provide additional local technical assistance, we do recommend that you adopt those proposals. They would both support implementation of multiple statewide initiatives that the Chancellor's Office and districts across the state are engaged in. Finance also mentioned a proposal to provide COLA for 4 categorical programs. We recommend approval on that, and also that you consider providing COLAs to other categorical programs that have not received them. A 1.02% COLA would require $2.6 million in additional funding. Regarding the Chancellor's Office positions, Finance indicates that that is to cover additional workload related to all these statewide initiatives and other things that the Chancellor's Office has been asked to take on in recent years. And presumably these positions also relate to the governor's proposal. So to the extent that you don't adopt any of the governor's proposals, we would just recommend that you ensure that your actions for this item align with any decisions you make there. And then regarding the prison funding, we don't have a recommendation. That's a brand new proposal that we have not had a chance to review.
Okay. Community colleges. And maybe before you proceed, during your presentation, if you could address the comment in the agenda as far as outlining some more info on those positions.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members, I'd be happy to do that. Again, I'm Dan Troy, Vice Chancellor from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. First off, broadly speaking, in terms of the May revision, we're very appreciative of the governor's support and recognition of the important work that the community colleges do in terms of preparing our workforce for the future, for having our open admission policies that serve so many students and get them a path out of poverty that they may not otherwise have without our services. So we're very appreciative of the governor investing in community colleges so strongly in terms of the May revision. To highlight a few of the proposals, I know we'll go through some of this in detail as the agenda lays out. We're particularly appreciative of the increase of $140 million into the general operating expense pool, bringing the total proposal for the year to almost $267 million. As you know, our system, by having foregone COLAs for 5 years during the economic downturn, lost about $1 billion worth of purchasing power in the system. And as you look ahead into the future with the looming PERS and STRS obligation increases, we calculate that those increases alone, when fully implemented, will be $400 million a year or more annually. So that is effectively a significant negative COLA on district budgets. So we think that college budgets need this discretionary funding in order to be prepared to make those payments. So we are particularly appreciative of that proposal. We're also very appreciative of the $75 million provided for the full-time faculty hiring. We think that that has a variety of student success benefits for our students. We think the administration's mechanism on that is very well thought out. So we're supportive of that. We're also supportive of the funds for deferred maintenance and for the increase in student equity plans, the funds for the institutional effectiveness initiative as well. Again, that's just a broad update. I know we'll get to some of this during the agenda. In terms of the positions, Finance has proposed 6 new positions for us. We would expect that those positions would land in the areas of fiscal, my division. In recent years, we've had a variety of new programs that require new fiscal formulas, such as the Student Equity Plan. There's been a revision to the Student Success and Support Program formula. Our apportionment staff has had to handle issues such as adult education and the increasing complications of the general apportionment due to the incorporation of the Prop 30 EPA funds, as well as the dissolution of the RDAs, has created a lot of workload for our staff. So that's an important issue for us. Some of the other positions would likely go to academic affairs. They're very instrumental on pushing through the Student Success and Support initiative. They've been busy at work on the AB 1440 transfer degrees, which helps smooth that transfer pathway from community colleges to CSUs. We think the state gets a lot of return on their investment in that area. Also, that division has been forced to work very much so on the bachelor degree programs, which we're very supportive of, so that staffing will help us get that job done in a much more efficient way. Student services has been leaned on as a key part of the transformation of the student success initiatives, so they are in need of support. The governor provides $29 million in January for apprenticeship, including $15 million to seek out new initiatives. Again, we need staffing. We need to ensure the effective implementation of that. Probably another position would go toward administrative efforts, such as HR. Again, we've had some new positions in recent years. We're very much below normal departmental ratios in terms of HR and admin. So in order to ensure the hiring and smooth effectiveness of our institution, we need some staffing there. So I think that's where the positions would go at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chavez, questions? Okay. I wonder if you can, Department of Finance, address the issue that we listed here in the agenda, but also we talked about at our hearing a couple months ago. We may have some public comment from some of the advocates from the categoricals, and that why there wasn't a desire to increase some of those when you increase some of your newer initiatives, and some of these programs were whacked significantly during the Great Recession. Didn't see the reinvestment in this budget.
Sure. So we proposed a lot of categorical increase funding in the areas of student success and student equity. Close to $400 million over the last 2 years has been invested into those categoricals that are targeted but also flexible. So if a community college district chooses to focus those resources on existing programs such as EOPS or any of the other categoricals that may have not received a full restoration, they can supplement those programs. There's flexibility there to do that. They serve very similar purposes to provide student support services as well as improve student outcomes through tutoring and other areas.
Sure. And I would add that community college districts can also use their significant base apportionments to support those programs as well. In addition, there's the roughly $260 million we're proposing to increase the base allocation. So we think there's significant resources that are flexible at the local level that local community college districts could choose to use for these programs.
Okay, on an issue like part-time faculty office hours, it's such a small number, but do you think with these increases in the apportionment and just overall for community colleges that the 100 or so colleges or the districts would do that?
I think it's reasonable for those community college districts to do that within their resources to the extent that those are areas of identified need. Recognizing that each community college district's needs are going to vary from district to district. So we think that that's an appropriate approach to provide them resources in a flexible way that best targets the needs based on their local decisions and local needs.
Okay. All right, we will hold this issue open. Next issue, full-time faculty.
So Keith Nizam, Department of Finance. The May revision includes $75 million in apportionment funding to increase full-time faculty obligation number based on district's respective full-time faculty percentage. It is estimated that approximately 600 additional full-time faculty would be hired through the implementation of this funding.
LAO?
Judy Hyman, Legislative Analyst Office. Our recommendation here is on page 4 of the handout. And we don't make a definitive recommendation. We note that the state has recognized in statute the Board of Governors' policy goal that at least 75% of credit instruction be taught by full-time instructors. Currently, the number is about 56% across the system, with colleges ranging from as low as 36% to over 75%. There are several benefits to having more full-time faculty. These instructors are more likely to take on other duties in addition to teaching, such as planning and developing curricula. They're also likely to be more available to students outside of classroom hours. But part-time faculty also can provide many benefits. They can bring practical industry experience to the classroom, and they can also give colleges more flexibility to adjust their program offerings as student needs and employer needs change in an area. Some studies conclude that higher shares of full-time faculty are associated with greater student success, yet other studies find no such association. So given this mixed evidence and the trade-offs that I mentioned, we just encourage you to weigh the various costs and benefits along with your other priorities. Colleges certainly can make progress on the full-time faculty ratios without earmarked funding by using their enrollment growth and other unrestricted funding for this purpose, and providing the earmark could accelerate this progress.
Okay. Community colleges?
Yes, again, Dan Troy, as I noted in my opening comments, we are supportive of this proposal. We do note the legislation that set 75% full-time instruction for credit instruction as the goal, AB 1725, back in 1988, came with the understanding that it does cost more to hire full-time faculty. Our current estimates are that the difference between average part-time compensation and full-time compensation is a little over $70,000. AB 1725, way back when, anticipated that colleges would receive increases over time that would make our funding roughly equivalent to that of CSU, and clearly that has not happened in the preceding years. So districts do need dedicated resources in order to make that conversion from part-time to full-time instruction, and we are supportive of this initiative.
Okay. Mr. Chavez, any questions or issues on this one? Okay, next item, please.
So the May revision includes $49.7 million to increase policy enrollment growth from 2% up to 3%. This represents an estimated increase of up to 1.16 million FTE, which would still be $22,000 below the 2007-8 peak of 1.182 million FTE. We believe that this is an appropriate percentage. There's various factors that go into what growth can be achieved, but our proposal targets increasing access for conservation course members, incarcerated inmates, bringing in additional students through remedial and basic skills partnership with the CSU, and also there's the recent closure of the Corinthian colleges, which would result in an ongoing shift of students to other educational providers, such as the community colleges.
Leo?
We recommend a lower enrollment target of 2.7%, which is still 0.7% over the January budget. We think this would be sufficient to accommodate the expected growth and cover all the remaining unfunded enrollment at the colleges.
Okay. Community colleges?
We're